In 2011, you released Act Three, Love Will Ruin, and the two singles, Falling Apart featuring Bed of Stars and Ghost Ship featuring Hot Hot Heat. I was going to ask you, those two singles and a lot of the album are more up-tempo rock, and I was going to ask you why you think that is, and you mentioned there's some outside influence of what they think might be cool, what might sell.
Also, what also influenced the tempo increasing was the live shows. Playing slow songs live is hard. It's just hard because people are out and they want to have a good time. And sometimes, like, it was hard for me to do an hour and a half of just like really slow songs, especially when I love upbeat music too, and I want to engage the audience. So I started increasing the tempos on some of the songs. That's where always became a complete reaction in tempo, because it's like 150 beats per minute to the Grace being so slow. And then with Act Three, it was like, let's be a little rockier, edgier. Let's throw some grit in there. So yeah, it was a reaction not only just to the pressure of having to become a little more accessible and commercial, but also to make the live shows more exciting.
So Falling Apart has great sounding bass, and it's got some cool sounding hand claps. Any advice on how to get a good sounding bass in the studio, or how you got the sound for that song? And then hand claps, I never know if those are recorded or if there's like a database of hand claps.
I record everything, so it wouldn't feel right if I had synthetic hand claps, you know. The bass tones are like, for me, it's distortion. It's got to be, there always should be some amount of distortion on bass. Otherwise, it's just, I mean, unless you're doing something that's, you know, really specific, the bass will speak when you have the right amount of distortion.
Is the distortion from pushing the amp harder, or is it from a pedal?
Yeah, on that one, what I would do is I would take two outputs of the bass. So I would split a clean, it's called like a direct line into the computer that is not touched through anything, so that later you can go and manipulate that or use that for the bottom end. And then I ran the other patch to a guitar amplifier. And you really shouldn't put bass through guitars, you might blow it, but if you keep it to a moderate level. So the guitar is going to give it a mid-range. And yeah, I probably used a pedal because I wouldn't want to push the amp too much because you'll blow the speaker with those frequencies. But so I had a couple really cool pedals and just spike in a little bit of distortion and then mix the two signals. When we mix, you have the direct signal and then the raunchy sort of overdrive. And if you don't like the amp, you can still take the DI. And I think for a couple songs, Gus Van Gogh in New York reamped the DI signal with his own amps, which is a huge technique for bass. So you just like reamp using a different amp because you have that clean signal. And he also had a plugin called the Sans amp that he used on a lot of things that gave it that raunch. So
the second single was Ghost Ship featuring Hot Hot Heat. That's another top 10 single. When I sing, I have a high nasally voice. It doesn't sound anything like how I speak. And the singer from Hot Hot Heat is known for having a high distinct voice. Do you have to change up what you do when recording a voice like that? Do you test out different mics to see what maybe rounds out that voice or thickens it or shaves off some higher piercing frequencies? Is it EQing it differently? Any insider information on recording that voice?
Well, so Steve Bass from Hot Hot Heat, some people didn't think that his voice would make sense on a Neverending White Lights record, but that was the point. Just like, how can you challenge, you know, like the idea that a singer has to sound like Dallas Green to have a beautiful ballad, you know?
That's hard to do. Yeah.
So Steve Bays, you know, he's a high yelpy singer because Hot Heat is like, you know, bandages on my legs and my arms from you. It's just like really yelpy. And this is a ballad. So I was really excited to see how it was going to work. And he wouldn't let me get near him So he said, I will not allow you to record me. I have to do it my own way. And it's a secret special way that nobody knows.
He didn't give you the secret sauce at all. He made you leave the room.
No, he's really particular. He says, I don't even want you to mix my vocals. He says, I've got to do it all myself. So he has in his Vancouver studio a little setup, right, with the compressor dialed in the way he likes it and his mic technique. And I don't think he likes people watching him. And so he gave me a vocal that was already the way he wanted it. He was very, very specific about that. No one touches my voice, he said. And I can see that because he's found his groove, right? If I go somewhere else to record, somebody doesn't understand how I like to sing, I might sound more self-conscious, or so I think it worked though. I think the vocal track sounds pretty good.
Sounds great.